we learned late last month that the federal deficit for the budget year 2019 hit nearly $1 trillion. But even as we approach 13 digits on that metric, spending plans don't seem to be shrinking, either under President Trump or the 2020 Democratic candidate. Steve Liesman joins us with more on that.
Yeah,
Hello,
good
sir.
morning, Andrew. Not a really sunny topic for the morning.
No.
But Republicans, passed a largely unfunded corporate tax cut and increased government spending. Leading Democratic presidential candidates, they propose massive health care plans they claim they're paid for, but many analysts look at them and say, well, that's not really the case. Whatever the case, no party is campaigning either on their record of reducing deficits or on their plans to do so. The deficit, probably the most unloved political story in Washington and of our time. This is the fiscal year where the federal government deficit will rise above $1 trillion, and it's going to stay there for probably the next decade. And there seems little concern about this number in Washington. Big numbers, they don't matter that much. What matters is the percentage. Take a look here. Deficit as a percent of GDP growing in excess of 4% for at least the next decade, and in some years it'll approach 5%. Now, there's a robust debate about how much deficits really matter. Fears of economic collapse and all kinds of nasty things happening from growing deficits, they have not panned out. So far, markets seem willing to finance the U.S. deficit at very low rates. But what's clear is that when both sides boost federal spending in good times, there is less or even no space in the event of a downturn for the government to help the economy. And that might matter someday, but not much to either party right now. That makes you a fiscal conservative if you care about fiscal space in the future. That's how far the whole thing has moved. Yeah. Because nobody is out there screaming, reduce the deficit now, we have a problem. Right. And I think the facts maybe bear out a little bit, a dramatically less apocalyptic view of these things. But the idea of fiscal space in the future is probably the most extreme end of the debate right now.
So, Steve, we're going to talk more, but we were talking about this, and if rates ever do go up,
yeah,
what does that do to our debt service if we had
It would go up a lot.
What could we handle? Could we handle 1.5 points?
A point and a half additional, or
a 1.5 rise in rates? Could we? What about a 4% rise in rates?
That would be a large amount. So, Joe, I was talking to people that you know well and I know well about this issue.
Can you give me some initials or
No,
something?
I wouldn't give initials. I've been talking off the record to people
Can you give me one
years.
initial?
No.
I know who it is.
Somewhere between.
Bigger than a bread basket?
Let me just say what the person said, which is more important, I think, which is this. Let's say all of these things are true, the deficit doesn't matter, but there is some chance of what you're talking about happening, and that would be catastrophic. It's the tail risk, or it's the black swan event when it comes to the deficit that would be so costly that you would at least take some steps to guard against it. And the idea of essentially pro-cyclical deficit spending, in other words, adding to the deficit in good times, that's the thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.